All right, we have more changes unfolding down at the southern border. Changes that have a new bipartisan bill working its way through the Senate, being negotiated and finalized right now. The White House is on board. Senators from both parties are on board. And it's a massive change from current policy, massive change. Meanwhile, we're seeing support grow across the board for government to fix this problem, solve the open border mess that we're all witnessing. People in both parties, across party lines, want this fixed. Normal Americans, I'm referring to, not Washington, not big business, as all the big power centers in this country have no incentive to see this problem solved. And we now have reports that a massive trucker convoy is making its way to the border, like what we saw in Canada back in 2022. Well, something similar is happening right now in the States. We have the footage and the details, but before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps me out. And make sure to subscribe to the channel to continue receiving these daily updates. Also, don't forget to check out our new daily show over at the Notify America YouTube channel. The link is in the description. So as many as 700,000 trucks and vehicles are headed to the border right now. That's according to Texas Congressman Keith Self, who spoke about this on X. He says the organizers of the convoy have been in contact with local law enforcement along their route and at the locations that they're planning to stop for these rallies that they're going to have. Now, we're going to come back to this in a minute, as we have some video that shows the sheer size of these protests, the people who were involved, why they're doing this. But first, just for some context, there's a crisis happening at the U.S. southern border right now. What we're seeing is the state of Texas, under Governor Greg Abbott's authority, sees Shelby Park in Eagles Pass from Federal Border Patrol. The Texas Military Department, who manages the National Guard, has taken over the most popular illegal crossing point for these big migrant caravans. Well, the National Guard and state troopers kicked the federal government off the border down there. They erected these barricades and stationed troops at the entrance to the park, not to block the migrants from crossing. They've already done that. The Shelby Park crossing point has effectively been sealed. The barricades and the guards are for Border Patrol. They're preventing CBP from entering, i.e. the federal government. On Thursday, the president announced that Texas has 24 hours to reopen the park to Border Patrol, or they're going to suffer the consequences, he said. Well, 72 hours later, and nothing's happened. Joe's effectively got himself backed into a corner. He has two options right now. He can either stand down and look weak in the process, or option number two, an extreme option, he could technically federalize the Texas National Guard, stripping Abbott's authority over his troops and force them to stand down, something that left-wing pundits are encouraging him to do, but it's something that's only ever been done a handful of times in the last few hundred years. Here's Greg Abbott explaining what he would do if President Joe Biden decides to take the Texas military out of play. Watch this.
India. Governor Abbott, thank you so much for joining us. If the administration declares that it plans to federalize the National Guard of the state of Texas, your National Guard, what will be your response?
Well, first, I'll be shocked. That would be a boneheaded move on his part, a total disaster. But for one, as you might imagine, we are prepared in the event that unlikely event does occur to make sure that we will be able to continue exactly what we've been doing over the past month, and that is building these barriers, whether it be the concertina wire or other anti-climb border barriers, whatever we've been building. The Biden administration is now trying to attack us because of it, and we will continue to do exactly what we're doing to expand our denial of illegal entry into the state of Texas.
With state employees, I assume, not with National Guard, but can you envision a scenario in which you would put armed state employees on the border instead of the National Guard of Texas?
We do have other armed state employees on the border as we speak right this minute, and that's the Texas Department of Public Safety, as well as other law enforcement officers, as well as National Guard from other states. And you can be assured there will be more National Guard from other states and more law enforcement officers within the state of Texas and other states. And, Tucker, I just signed a new law in the state of Texas that will go into effect on March the 5th that authorizes any law enforcement officer in the state of Texas to be able to arrest anybody coming across the border illegally.
Well, the White House doesn't like either option. Both are lose-lose scenarios for them. So they're looking for a third option, enter this new border deal, which is being negotiated in the Senate right now with Biden's backing. Republicans like Lindsey Graham and Mitt Romney are 100% on board. The deal includes a daily threshold, a 5,000 person daily threshold, mandatory detention of all single adults, and a new authority codified into law that requires Border Patrol to immediately remove illegal immigrants that they catch without processing. They wouldn't get to request asylum. Instead, they'd be immediately removed back to Mexico or to their home countries. This would be a massive change from current policy. Current policy says any illegal migrant who reaches U.S. soil must be processed via Title VIII and allowed to claim asylum, given a court date, in 6 or 8 years from today, and then released into the interior of the country. Unfortunately for Biden, the deal has no chance of getting passed. The new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, says it's dead on arrival. Anything with a daily threshold won't even be considered, he says, which makes sense because what they're effectively saying is 5,000 people a day can break the law before they begin enforcing the law. It makes no sense. That would be 1.8 million people a year can cross illegally. So the battle continues. Republican states around the country are now sending reinforcements to back Texas up. 25 Republican governors have said that they stand with Texas, and an army of protesters have organized and gotten together to protest in what Texas Congressman Keith Self says could include up to 700,000 vehicles, including trucks, cars, motorcycles, making their way from Virginia down to Texas to stand with them and make their voices heard. Now, that's according to Vice News. I'm hearing other reports that it's much lower than that, so I don't know if that's a typo on their part. But here's some video from the Daily Mail showing what the convoy looks like right now. Now, corporate media is already painting these truckers as religious extremists, Christian nationalists. Here's Vice News writing this: protest convoy headed to southern border is calling itself an army of God. Experts say that the Christian nationalist rhetoric adds a dangerous dimension to the standoff between Texas and the federal government. Look, corporate media, big business, all power centers in this country are opposed to having a secure border. They have no incentive to do that. So you'll see this group of people be ridiculed and attacked for this. Now, the official name of the convoy is the Take Our Border Back Convoy. One of the people who's leading the effort was interviewed a few days ago, and you can decide for yourself if you think that they're dangerous extremists or not. Watch this.
We thought it would be worth talking to Doc Pete Chambers about what he expects to happen with this convoy and his role in it. He joins us now. Dr. Chambers, thank you so much for coming on.
It's great to be here, Tucker.
So what can we expect with this convoy? Can you describe what it is and what its purpose is?
Right. This is a peaceful assembly. This is what we do as Americans. This is how we shed light to a subject. This shedding of the light will result in exposing really what an open border policy looks like.
Yes.
We know we know the problem sets in Texas. But literally, I promise you this, that 40 miles north of that border, there will be people that will never have heard of the border problem because they just watch mainstream media.
Yes.
And so this is what that is about.
And so can you tell us the route of the convoy and who you expect to join it?
Right. So right now, they're going to be leaving out of, on the 29th, Virginia Beach, which is where the 1607 Covenant, the landing, which signified the John Smith landing in 1607, where they planted a cross on the beach and said, hey, this is a covenant to this nation, to God. And then they're going to leave from there, and they're going to go down through Florida. They're going to cut across Highway 10 through Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Houston, into Dripping Springs, Texas, where I'll be working out of, and then on to near Eagle Pass. Now, I'm part of the advisory of this, and as I advised, I used to be in that same unit that's down there. That's the unit that has a streamer on it from the Alamo. It's a very historic Texas unit. And so they are down there holding the line. And I know those soldiers. I worked with them. I took care of them as a doctor with Operation Lone Star. They're busy. So the convoy is going to go just a little bit just a little bit to the north, really, in an area about 30 miles away in Quemado, Texas, to a children's camp. A beautiful lady down there who has taken care of orphans and widows. You can't write this stuff in a book. I couldn't make this up. But she was overrun, first of all, by the COVID mandates. that said, you got to shut down. You can't keep running this shelter, number one. Number two, she was overrun by the numbers of volumes of illegals that were coming through her neighborhood, trying to get into her food pantry. And then number three, the cartels are a significant presence in that area because that is the end point of where they do the end around. So we are looking at the bright, shiny object that is Eagle Pass. That's a bright, shiny object. Look here. The droids that you're not looking for, if you will, are just to the north, right in that location. And so what this is going to do is it's going to bring light to it, because we have to understand that there is a constitution, both state and federal, and that we have to, number one, expose those that argue things in the Hegelian dialectics, if you will, of tort law, and look at the Constitution, which is exactly what this is a focus on. The Constitution, we the people. That's why we the people will be riding along, mama bears, cops, veterans, truckers, and going to that location to bring light. There is nothing nefarious about this. There is, matter of fact, I am suggesting to them that they and they know this, that this is a peaceful demonstration. This is how this will be.
And look, we've seen the way that the government can treat protesters that they don't like. Remember in Canada 2 years ago, the trucker convoy there protesting the lockdowns, which was as peaceful a protest as you can get. The Trudeau government ruthlessly cracked down on them, freezing bank accounts, commandeering tow trucks to remove the semis. Tow trucks from companies who supported the protesters were commandeered by the government. That came after the Biden White House, by the way, asked Canada to resolve the blockade, as it was already adding, to the raging inflation problem that we were having. The convoy, by the way, starts from January 29th through February 3rd. Anyone can attend, including families, they say, and kids. There are multiple rallies, by the way, scheduled along their route. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Also, don't forget to check out our daily show, our new daily show over on the Notify America YouTube channel. The link is in the description.